A streetlight flickered, revealing a figure hanging upside down from it. I only saw it for half a second. The light above the road buzzed softly, casting that familiar blue-white glow that late-night highways always seem to have. My headlights cut through the darkness in two steady cones, the engine humming with the quiet confidence of a car that had been driving for hours without interruption. Then the streetlight flickered. In that stuttering blink of light, something appeared. A shape, person, hanging upside down from the curved metal arm of the streetlight like a bat. And then the light steadied again. Nothing. Just the pole. Just the road. Just the empty stretch of highway disappearing into the dark. I kept driving. My hands stayed steady on the wheel, but something cold had settled into the back of my neck, a feeling like someone breathing there. I glanced in the rearview mirror. The road behind me was empty. No headlights, no taillights, just rows of identical streetlights stretching into darkness, their pale glow reflecting faintly across the wet-looking asphalt. The flicker had been quick, maybe too quick for my brain to process correctly. A shadow, a bird, a trick of the light. The engine hummed louder when I pressed the accelerator, the sound vibrating faintly through the steering wheel. Another streetlight waited ahead. The road was perfectly straight here, lined with evenly spaced poles that stood like quiet sentinels watching traffic pass through their territory. Each one cast a circle of cold blue light on the pavement. I drove into the next pool of light. The bulb buzzed, flickered, and in that blink, there it was again, the same figure, hanging upside down. This time I saw more. Arms dangling toward the road, hair hanging in long strands that swayed slightly in the air. The light steadied. Empty pole. My chest tightened. I looked forward again quickly, heart beating just a little faster now. "Okay," I muttered quietly, my voice sounding strange inside the car. "Okay." The road continued. Streetlight, darkness. Streetlight, darkness. Each one spaced about 30 yards apart. I told myself not to look up again. Just drive. Just focus on the road. But my eyes kept drifting upward as the next pole approached, pulled by a curiosity that felt less like choice and more like gravity. The light buzzed. Flicker. The figure again. Closer. I could see the outline of clothing now, something loose that hung downward with gravity. A jacket, maybe. The arms stretched toward the ground like someone reaching, and the head, tilted toward my windshield. The light stabilized. Nothing. My breath had become shallow without me noticing. The engine hummed. The tires whispered against asphalt. The windshield reflected the faint glow of the dashboard lights across the glass. Streetlight ahead. The road felt longer now. Or maybe the spacing between lights had changed. Couldn't tell. My memory of the last few minutes felt strangely soft, like trying to recall a dream that was already dissolving. Had there been cars earlier? I thought there had been. Maybe not. The next streetlight approached. Buzz. Flicker. The figure again. Closer still. Too close. Its arms were longer than I remembered. Not longer exactly. Just stretched. As if gravity had been pulling them downward for years. The fingers hung inches above the roof of my car as I passed underneath. I felt something brush the air above me. The light steadied. Nothing. My heart began to pound. I looked into the rearview mirror again. The streetlight behind me flickered faintly. For a moment I thought I saw the shape there again. Still hanging. Still watching. Except now its head was turning slowly to follow my car as it drove away. I looked back to the road. Another light ahead. My speedometer read 55. I didn't remember accelerating. The engine hummed louder now, vibrating faintly through the seat. The next streetlight approached faster than I expected. Buzz. Flicker. The figure appeared again. Closer than it should have been. Its face was pointed directly at my windshield now, but upside down. Features stretched strangely by gravity. Hair swaying slightly. And the eyes. They were open, wide, watching me pass beneath. The light steadied. Empty. I swallowed. My mouth felt dry. Something about the road felt wrong. The darkness between streetlights seemed thicker now, heavier, like the night itself had weight. And the lights, they were closer together. I was sure of it. 30 yards had become 20. Maybe less. The next one was already approaching. Buzz. Flicker. The figure again. His hands nearly touched my hood. The fingers were wrong. Too many joints. They bent slowly as the car passed beneath, curling slightly as if reaching. The light steadied. Nothing. I pressed the accelerator harder. The engine responded with a rising hum. Streetlight ahead. Buzz. Flicker. The figure again. Closer. Closer. Every light revealed more. The pale outline of a face. The hollow curve of an upside-down smile. Arms long enough now to brush the roof of my car as I passed underneath. I heard it this time. A faint tapping sound above me, like fingernails grazing metal. The light steadied. Empty pole. I checked the rearview mirror. The last streetlight flickered. The figure was there again. Except now it wasn't still. It was swaying slightly and turning its head. Following. Another streetlight ahead. Too close. Buzz. Flicker. The figure was so close now that its hair dragged across my windshield as I passed beneath. I flinched. The strands slid across the glass like thin lines of shadow. The light steadied. Nothing. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly my knuckles hurt. The road stretched forward endlessly. Streetlight. 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 Closer together now. Barely 10 yards apart. Every one flickering. Every one revealing the same upside-down shape hanging from the metal arm. And each time, closer, clearer, watching, until finally the next light flickered and the figure was directly above my windshield. Face inches from the glass. Eyes wide, smile stretching slowly. And in that frozen moment before the light steadied, I saw something that made my stomach drop. The face looked familiar. Not exactly, but close enough. Like seeing your reflection in a warped mirror. The light steadied. Gone. I drove on. But something had changed. The engine sound felt different now. Higher. Lighter. Like the weight of the car had shifted. The next streetlight flickered. I looked up automatically. But there was no figure hanging from it. For a moment I felt relief. Until I glanced at the rearview mirror. And saw my car. Driving beneath the streetlights behind me. Headlights glowing, moving steadily down the road. Inside the car, I could see a silhouette sitting in the driver's seat. And above that car, above the windshield, a figure hanging upside down from the streetlight, arms dangling, hair swaying, watching the road ahead, watching the next streetlight flicker, waiting for the driver below to finally notice. And as I stared into the mirror, the reflection of the figure slowly turned its head toward me. Because the road doesn't create things. It just shows you where you already are. The next sign warned of falling rocks, but the rocks were suspended midair. The sign appeared suddenly in my headlights, its reflective yellow paint flaring bright against the darkness. Falling rocks. The arrow beneath it pointed toward a bend in the mountain road. A familiar warning for highways like this. Narrow asphalt carved into the side of a cliff, where gravity was always trying to reclaim the mountain. Except the rocks weren't falling. They were hanging in the air. My headlights swept across them as I rounded the curve. Fist-sized stones, jagged fragments of shale, even a few larger pieces the size of bowling balls. All of them frozen several feet above the road. Perfectly still. For a second I thought they were wires or maybe debris caught in a landslide net. But there was no net. Just rocks. Suspended. The engine hummed beneath me, steady and low. The tires rolled over loose gravel scattered along the shoulder with a faint crunching sound. I slowed slightly, leaning forward toward the windshield. The rocks didn't move, not even when my headlights shifted across them. They looked like they had been thrown into the air and forgotten there. When the car passed beneath them, I instinctively ducked. Nothing fell. The rocks stayed exactly where they were. A cold draft slipped through the cracked window, carrying the dry mineral smell of the mountainside. The drop-off to my right vanished into darkness, a black gulf that swallowed the beam of my headlights before they could reach the bottom. In the rearview mirror, The suspended rocks drifted away behind me, still hanging motionless above the pavement. I drove for another minute before convincing myself there had to be an explanation. Wind currents, construction equipment, some kind of safety measure. The mountain road curved again. Another warning sign appeared. Falling rocks. This one looked older. The reflective coating had faded slightly, and the arrow pointed toward a tighter bend ahead. The engine note deepened as the road began to climb. I turned the wheel. My headlights swept across the cliff wall, and the rocks appeared again. More of them this time. Dozens. Some hovered inches from the rock face, as if they had just broken free. Others floated above the center of the road. One of them, larger than the rest, hung directly over the yellow line. It was the size of a refrigerator. It didn't wobble, didn't rotate, didn't fall. It simply existed there, perfectly still inside the pale tunnel of my headlights. I slowed almost to a crawl as I passed beneath it. The car's engine filled the silence of the mountains, vibrating through the steering wheel. For a moment, I had the strange impression that if I reached up through the sunroof and touched the rock, it would feel warm, like something recently in motion. But I kept driving. When the rock passed overhead, I checked the rearview mirror again. The instant my headlights no longer touched it, it vanished. Not falling, not moving, just gone. My stomach tightened. The road ahead twisted along the mountainside like a ribbon dropped across stone. Guardrails appeared only occasionally, leaving long stretches where the cliff simply fell away beside the asphalt. Another sign emerged from the darkness. Falling rocks. But something about this one felt wrong. I slowed. The lettering looked slightly different. Not the standard highway font. And beneath the words, someone had added another line. Falling rocks. When light reaches them. I frowned. My headlights swept past the sign before I could read it again. Another curve. Another wall of rock rising beside the road. The engine hummed. The tires whispered over asphalt. Then the rocks returned. This time they were everywhere. Pebbles hung like dust motes in the air. Larger stones floated at shoulder height. Several boulders hovered far above the road, frozen in the darkness beyond my headlights. As my beams swept across them, they appeared one by one, solidifying out of the night. Waiting, I drove slowly through them. The sensation was deeply wrong, like moving through a photograph where gravity had been erased. One rock hung inches from my windshield. I could see the sharp texture of its broken surface, the thin veins of quartz running through it. It didn't spin. It didn't fall. It just stayed there until the car crept past. And then it disappeared behind me. My dashboard clock read 1:17 a.m. I remembered checking it earlier. It had said 1:17 a.m. then, too. The road curved again. Except I didn't remember this curve. I had studied the route earlier on my phone before starting the drive. The mountain pass was supposed to be mostly straight for another 10 miles. Yet the asphalt twisted left, then right, then left again. Each turn revealing more suspended rocks in the headlights, each cluster larger than the last. Another sign appeared. Falling rocks. But the second line had changed. Falling rocks. When light stops, my pulse quickened. I slowed the car until the engine barely hummed. A massive boulder hovered directly above the road ahead, balanced in the beam of my headlights like a planet caught in orbit. It must have weighed several tons. It hung there effortlessly. I glanced at the clock again. Still 1:17 a.m. The road curved sharply around the cliff face. But when I followed the bend, something strange happened. The headlights illuminated a familiar sign. Falling rocks. The exact same one I had passed earlier. Faded yellow paint. Arrow pointing toward the curve. My chest tightened. I checked the rearview mirror. Behind me, the road stretched straight for miles. No curves. No rocks. Just empty asphalt disappearing into darkness. I looked forward again. The suspended stones were back. More than before. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. Pebbles. Shards. Boulders. All frozen in the air above the road like a landslide paused in mid-explosion. The engine idled quietly. I realized something then. The rocks only existed inside the headlights. The moment the light left them, they were gone. Not falling, just waiting. A thought crept into my mind. Slow and heavy. What if the rocks weren't frozen? What if the light was? I eased my foot off the accelerator. The car rolled forward slowly. The beam of my headlights shifted. New rocks appeared instantly ahead, each one suspended in the exact position it would occupy during a landslide. Like a moment captured mid-disaster. My grip tightened on the steering wheel. The sign ahead changed again. Falling rocks. And beneath it, they continue when you pass. A faint sound reached my ears. Behind me, soft, like gravel sliding. I froze. In the rearview mirror, darkness filled the road. But something moved inside it. Shapes tumbling, dust rising, an avalanche unfolding somewhere beyond the reach of my headlights. Exactly where the rocks had disappeared. My hands began to shake. The dashboard clock still read 1:17 a.m. I understood then. The rocks weren't suspended. The road wasn't trapping me. The headlights were. Every second I drove forward, the light pushed the moment of the landslide ahead of me, freezing it just long enough to pass through. But behind the car, time resumed, gravity returned, and the mountain finished what it had started. The sound grew louder, stone grinding against stone, the deep rolling thunder of something massive collapsing down the mountainside. I pressed the accelerator. The engine roared. The headlights surged forward. More rocks appeared instantly ahead of me, hanging in the air like a storm caught in glass. I drove through them faster now, but the sound behind me kept growing, because the landslide wasn't chasing the car. It was finishing the road, one frozen second at a time, and eventually, my headlights would reach the last rock.